had a diagnostic about 168, 169, and I'm trying to get like a 174. So I was kind of prepping for reading comprehension because I was kind of not getting the score, like getting like almost perfect in that section. So I wanted to kind of focus on that section. And I guess like I had some also like some weaknesses for the LR, especially sufficient necessary questions.
Yeah, gotcha, sure. So we're looking to go from 168 to 174 by the October LSAT in about 2 weeks. You mentioned reading comprehension in particular, maybe some logical reasoning types as well. What's your current approach like for reading comp right now?
So I kind of read the entire passage. It usually doesn't take me that long. Like I'm a quick reader, maybe like a minute, maybe 2 minutes maximum. And then I kind of try to, before looking at the questions, I want to summarize what the passage means and what I can kind of predict what maybe the questions would ask me. So I know the first question usually starts off with what's the like main point of the passage or what's the author's kind of purpose of writing this. And so I kind of predict what the entire passage means, and then I go off of that.
Good. Okay, cool. So you're saying that you're spending a minute or two reading the passage. You're reading with anticipation, trying to predict what the questions will be about or what the answer will be.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I mean, a minute, I'll be honest, a minute or two actually feels a little bit fast to me for an initial read. Do you feel like when you spend only a minute or two, you're still able to get the gist of it, the main idea, and the author's opinion?
I usually do, but there are instances that I will say that sometimes I kind of forget maybe like what's important in the passage, right? And I have to go back to it, and that kind of does hinder me like in the later questions.
Okay, so you're often getting it, but not always.
Exactly.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, you might consider slowing down. I mean, like I said, a minute or two feels pretty fast to me to read 450 words on an unfamiliar topic. You might try slowing down a tiny bit and play with that and see if that could maybe increase your understanding a bit.
Right. Yeah. I'll slow down. Do you have like a time estimate? Maybe
Yeah, I mean, my general recommendation would be about 2.5 to 3 minutes for the initial read. And with the understanding you can get from spending 2.5 to 3, that should then give you enough context or information to at least be able to knock out the more general global questions like main idea, primary purpose, passage organization, title, tone, author's opinion, things of that nature.
And do you also recommend never looking back at the passage to save more time like in the questions? So kind of just trying to like the first reading of the passage, you should always know everything from the passage, and then so you won't have to look back for a question.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend never looking back. I think looking back is okay to do sometimes, especially more for the detail questions. The key is that you want to know exactly where to go back to when you need to help you solve a particular question. So when you're reading the passage and maybe giving yourself a bit more time to read it, like I'm recommending, if you could then, as you're going through the passage, think to yourself, okay, well, this part of the passage is where they articulate the main idea. This is where they give you evidence. This is where they give you details and supporting examples. This is where they tell you who, if anyone's advocating a particular point of view. You then, for the detailed questions, can go back to those specific paragraphs or specific lines even. So you're, in other words, you're trying to form a mental map or outline of the key details and know where you can go back to help you solve a specific question.
And I know like for the reading comprehension, so like for the science based, like I guess STEM rate based sections, do you also recommend like kind of reading more scientific based like articles to more? Because I'm not like there's a joke right that attorneys go to law school because like STEM isn't their biggest strength. So do you recommend like before like some of those like science based passages, do you recommend like reading more STEM based articles and like books in order to like kind of get that background knowledge? Because that's like my weakness as well, like some of those science based passages.
If you had a year, I would say yes, but you've got 2 weeks till your test in October. And so I would instead say, why don't you just read actual LSAT passages about science topics?
Okay.
And the idea, by the way, isn't to act. I'll challenge one particular thing that you said, which was about to get the knowledge. I don't think you're not going to get the knowledge because they're drawing from such a wide range of topics. I mean, think to yourself, on the one hand, you have like the riddled Basins of Attraction passage, one of the hardest reading comp passages ever. You also have the one on, I think it was like macrotoporous bugs or something. Like, I don't even know what that is, but like you have such a varied set of topics that they pull from that you're not going to learn all of science. Nobody knows all of natural science, but you can increase your comfort level getting exposed to unfamiliar topics just by doing more reading comprehension passages themselves. You've got about 400 passages released, and you've got 2 weeks till your test.
Right.
And so I would say dig back into some of the oldest ones that you're never going to touch and otherwise, and just read them on the beach or in the bathroom, whatever. Read them to help you fall asleep at night. Just get some more exposure to the difficult, dense text on unfamiliar topics and see, can I get the main point here?
Do you recommend kind of just doing one section, like doing reading comp basically every day, or do you like recommend like maybe taking it full timed, the full exam, like maybe once a week or twice a week before October 4th?
For you in particular, because you're looking to go from, again, 168 to 174 in 2 weeks, my focus for you would be timed exams, at least one a week, maybe two. I mean, do you have other obligations, or are you studying full time?
I'm basically studying full time because
Okay.
later.
So if you're full time, 2 exams a week, I think is reasonable, along with detailed review of those exams. That would be my primary focus, number one. Secondly, if reading comp is your biggest area of struggle, I would also do timed sections of reading comp in addition. I would prioritize only timed work because of your limited time frame. If you were on a longer time frame for, say, January, February, I would slow down and do some more untimed. But for you, I think timed plus review is the way to go.
And I guess for the logical reasoning, is there any like helpful tips that you have for like solving the necessary sufficient? Because that's like one of my weaknesses. Like I think at most other logical reasoning I'm pretty well at. Like I'm basically near perfect, but those are the questions that I kind of struggle with, and it's like a 50-50 chance of me getting it wrong.
So you're talking about necessary assumption and sufficient assumption?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, for sure. I mean, I would drill each of those in isolation to get more clarity on the proper perspective or approach from which to view each. I'll quickly summarize here for you, but then dig into the course material for more. For necessary assumption questions, you're looking for something that needs to be the case in order for the argument to work, meaning if it were not the case, the conclusion would fall apart. Given the evidence, the argument no longer works. And so you're looking for a very specific kind of answer where you can negate it, and the correct choice when negated destroys the argument because the argument relies upon that underlying necessary assumption. In contrast, for sufficient assumption, you're looking for new information that, if true, will guarantee the argument 100%, leaving no ambiguity at all. So it doesn't matter how strong it is, as long as it achieves the objective of guaranteeing the argument. So necessary, more moderate; sufficient assumption, more extreme. You could drill these here and there, but I think, again, with your very limited time, just watch 1 or 2 of the course lesson videos that I did covering these topics, full-length class recordings, going in depth with example after example. I think giving you some targeted clarity there would be really helpful, but reading comp, I think, is even more important for you because it's a third of the test. And I think just the small adjustment I'm recommending of giving yourself more time reading the passage, if we double your time from a minute or 2 to more like 2 to 3, 2 to 4, that's going to make a major difference in helping you to deepen your understanding of what the passage is actually saying. And then you'll still have time to go back to. But I'd work on that pacing to say, can I double my time reading the passage while still having sufficient comfort and security knowing that I could go back to the passage for those more detail-oriented specific questions?
And I guess like adding to that, do you recommend like maybe 5 or 6 minutes for the entire section? Because I think there's 4 sections of reading comp. What was your recommendation based on the timing for those?
Yeah, so you're right. You have 4 sets, 3 long passages, and then 2 dual shorter ones, but we'll say 4 for simplicity. 35 minutes for the section divided by 4 is 8 minutes and 45 seconds per passage. Within those 8:45, you're giving yourself, let's say for clarity, simplicity, 3 minutes on the passage, and then 5:45 for the associated questions. Now, 3 minutes on the initial passage read with 5:45 remaining gives you just under a minute per question. So I'm not saying you want to go beyond 3 minutes on your read because then you're cutting in too much to the questions. But yes, all else being equal, as an average, I would say 8:45 per set. But some will be harder than others. And so some you'll go faster, some you'll go slower.
So I was gonna ask, do you recommend maybe skipping like some of the harder questions in the in passage, or like meaning in the like, let's say there's 5 questions, right? Do you skip like maybe question 2 and then go to 5 and then go back, so I won't get stuck on like a question, because there's usually a question per passage that I get stuck on. That takes a lot of my time, and I have to like rush, because I usually do it in like chronological order. I've never really skipped around, but do you recommend doing that maybe?
Yeah, you can jump around. I'm not going to use the word skip because I do want you to eventually do everything, but I don't want to inadvertently confuse anybody. But I want to say that you can do the questions out of order. In fact, I recommend that to a lot of folks. In reading comprehension, you have 3 main categories of questions. You have global, local, and inferential. Global is big picture questions like main idea, primary purpose, title, tone, author's opinion, passage organization. Local would be more detailed questions like examples, details, where you're going back to specific lines supporting a given choice. In the paper LSAT, these had line references. In the online LSAT, they highlight it in turquoise. Then for the inferential, those are more hard. They're harder, to be frank. They require you to read between the lines more, and they will have questions that are analogous to logical reasoning, like parallel, strength, and weaken. I would save those for last. So yes, I would recommend jumping around, going from easy to hard to build your baseline understanding as you go.
And do you also, I guess, like on that note, so I don't know how the order is in terms of maybe like humanities section first of the passage and then like science based, but I don't know do you recommend like skipping maybe the harder passages and then doing the easy ones first to get that out of the way?
Yeah, good question. So you have those 4 categories of topics: natural science, social science, humanities, and law. Those 4 could be in any order. It's not like humanities is always first or always last. The dual passage could also be anywhere in the set of 4. I generally like to just say do them in order because it takes time to decide on topic, because you're reading it, you're getting invested, then you're saying, actually, no, I don't want to do this right now. But if you see that you read a topic and you just kind of hit a fight or flight mode and you freeze, where you're like, I cannot deal with this in the moment. Yeah, sure. I mean, skip it, come back to it later. I think that's fine. If you want to do the dual passages first or last, they're so easy to recognize. I think that's also fine too. But for a 174, you do need to attempt and bubble in every single answer with full effort.
Right. But yeah, I think yeah, that's all my questions.
Awesome, Daniel. It's a pleasure. If anything else comes up in these final weeks, just reach out, email, text. I'm happy to help.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure, man.